credit with Vivace with her amazing network of top producers in the city who she was able to line up in a heartbeat to come here and speak to all of you today. She's had over 4,000 coaching calls. She has a global business. And you might have seen her on several revenue panels on Fox Biz News, most recently on $1 Million Listing New York, and she's just a great asset to our community. She works with several top brokers in New York City. I know she's spoken at many of our offices, and we're thrilled to have her. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vivace Maxvictor. Thank you for being here, and thank you all for coming.
Come on, give me a real round. I am so excited to be here. First of all, I want to thank you, Beth. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. If any of you don't know Beth, you need to know Beth, especially if you want to make more money. Beth is highly knowledgeable. She's extremely intelligent, and she knows how to get it done. Take this one out to coffee and multiply your income. So that's my plug for Beth Gilman. I'm really excited. We'd love to invite all the panel to come up. Let me introduce our first lovely panelist, Miss Jessica Peters. Eklund flew the coop at Douglas Elliman.
How warm.
Jessica has led sales for 71 new development projects and has closed approximately $850 million in residential sales. Jessica, can you please share a fun fact or a fun story about yourself?
Absolutely. So before I got into real estate, I was actually enrolled in the Culinary Institute of America to become a chef, and at the very last minute, I pivoted into real estate. But on the side, I do cook quite elaborate dinners at home. It's never boring in my house.
Thank you so much. Are anyone from Elliman here? Oh, God. Stephen James did good. You better thank Stephen James. Well done there. So thank you for coming. I like to think of Jessica as the Beyonce of Brooklyn real estate. So if any of you want to purchase anything in Brooklyn, or your clients do, definitely reach out to the Beyonce of Brooklyn real estate. You're first. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next person is Mr. Tyler Whitman. I said it was Mr. Tyler Whitman, people. Mr. Tyler Whitman is one of the original team members at Triplemint who spearheaded the initial sales team at the company. He went on to grow the top producing sales team at the company and is the newest star of $1 Million Listing New York. Please give him another round of welcome. Tyler, can you please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself?
I am not only a raging homosexual, but I also have been to over 100 Fish concerts at this point. So, live a secret life as a dirty hippie.
Love that. That's great. The rest of his stories are on his stories on Instagram every day. So you can get a lot of those fun stories from the fun facts. Thank you so much. And are any of our friends from Triplemint here?
Yeah.
From Triplemint here. That's great. Happy to have you here. And our next panelist is John Gomes. Mr. John Gomes is a co-founder of Eklund Gomes team. John, can you please give us a fun fact or a fun story about you?
Yeah, fun fact is that I go to church every Sunday. For some reason, when people find that out, they think that that's funny, or they don't expect me to be a regular Sunday churchgoer. But I was an altar boy when I was very young, and I went to Catholic school, and it just sort of stuck with me my whole life. So that's a fun fact about me. I go to church every Sunday.
Love that. Please give Mr. John Gomes a warm welcome. Next we have Miss Julia Hoagland from Compass. She is ranked by Wall Street Journal Real Trends 2018 as one of the top 50 New York City agents. Please give her another warm welcome. Can you tell us a fun fact about you or a fun story?
My fun facts, I'm going to say two. I grew up in Colorado and I'm a huge lover of snowboarding in my spare time, and I live in the East Village, which is something like John just said that people find curious when they find that out for some reason.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Steve Cohen from Corcoran. Any of our friends from, by the way, any of our friends from Compass here? Woo! Yes! We have a friend from Compass here. Love that. I'd like to invite us to please welcome Mr. Steve Cohen. He's from Corcoran, and he's ranked by Wall Street Journal as one of the top 15 brokers in New York City and top 100 brokers nationally. Can you please give us a fun fact or fun story?
Okay. So I love that you go to church, but I've always felt this spiritual thing with John. That's not my fun fact. And okay, I don't snowboard. So since I've been a child, it's my passion, a little bit of obsession with great estates and mansions. And it started, my father we grew up outside of Philadelphia in the suburbs, and he would drive us around and we would just look at beautiful homes. To this day, when I go to LA, which I do a few times a year for business, I keep half a day open and I just drive through Bel Air and Beverly Hills and go with colleagues who are representing some of the greatest properties out there, and they're always amazed that I know the whole pedigree of the family and the history of these homes, and it's a great passion. So.
Thank you. Please, once again, give a warm round of applause for Alan. I know.
I'll be your lead. Take turns.
I like it. He's my Vanna White. Thank you. Jessica, starting with you. A person's mindset. Thank you so
I
much.
was like, that was a joke. We're going for it.
I'm Persian Jew, so I took it seriously. I was like, oh, it's part of my princess charm. Okay. A person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Jessica, starting with you. Why is mindset so important in the New York City real estate game?
Mindset for me is sort of like your own personal energy. And I have a really good example as to how your mindset can really affect how people perceive you. I was sitting in a room with one of my developers, just nonchalantly talking about some price per square foot. He asked me the question, I answered. One of his colleagues turns around to him and says, I told you the same thing last week. And my developer turned around to me and said, yeah, but she said it with conviction. So I think your mindset is a true reflection of your energy, so that's incredibly important for people to feel that you're confident.
I think one thing I've learned is that no matter how much experience that I have, deals are still going to fall apart. You're still going to run into brokers who don't know what they're doing, who are rude, or you're going to run into difficult clients. It just never goes away. And for me, it's I used to be able to just let that knock me down and keep me out for a week, and then you realize you just have to be mentally tough and get back up and keep going. And I think that's the only difference between agents who fade out of this industry and agents who soar to the top, are the ones who just lick their wounds and get back on the horse.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Mr. John Gomes, a person's mindset can make them or break them. Please tell us why you think mindset is important in the New York City real estate game.
Yeah, I think some of the most successful people that I've ever met, and a lot of my clients are very successful, and I aspire to sort of reach their level of success. But one thing that I notice is consistent about all of them, even though they all have different careers, is that they're all level-headed. And I always admire that, and I really learned from that, because I think if you're level-headed, it sort of goes back to what Jessica was saying about the energy. You have to think that when you're meeting with your clients and you're trying to sell real estate, the most important thing that you sell first is you. Because if you're not comfortable, and if you're not level-headed, and you're not in the right mindset, then you're not going to be able to sell them anything. So I learned that pretty early on in my career, and I think that I agree with you. It's one's energy and being level-headed that makes you successful in this business, and that is really awesome.
Thank you, Mr. John Gomes. Same question, please.
I am a huge believer in the power of positive thinking, and for me, mindset is what helps me get back to sleep when I wake up in the middle of the night panicking about the transaction that's not going well or the client that was upset. It also helps me step back and take a breath and not lose my temper with people that I love in my life, people on my team, and worst of all, clients. And I believe it helps minimize the weight of challenging markets like those that we're in. If you just think that and truly believe that things are going to be better tomorrow if they're not so good today.
Thank you.
I said to someone the other day, everything that I've gotten in my life, I've visualized. So I'm a big, they call it daydreaming when I was growing up, not paying attention in class, but daydreaming and visualizing gets me what I want with, obviously, lots of blessings. But I think that if you start your day right, it's like a rudder on a boat, and it's all in your attitude and what you put out there. And what you put out is what you attract. I'm very fortunate. Like, do I love all my clients? I'd say 95% of them, even the ones that are dicks, excuse me, because I come from, okay, I get it, I give them the benefit of the doubt, this is their home, or they're upset about something else, but I'm fortunate that I attract a lot of good people, and similar, that people I aspire to be like and reach their level of success and to learn from.
Thank you so much. Jessica, what are some actions that you take to support your strong mindset?
I get a lot of help from life coaching, therapy, exercising. I surround myself with people who I feel are either equally as talented or more talented, because it's really incredible to have people such as a mentor, which is one of the reasons why I joined up with John and Fred. He's one of the reasons why I do what I do every day.
Thank you. Tyler, what actions do you take to support a strong mindset?
For me, I coach with a business coach and a life coach as well, named Vivace Maxvictor. But for me, the most important part is just having a solid morning routine. You know, I wake up early, I go to the gym right away, I meditate, I do affirmations, I do a gratitude list, and it's these things that, like, by the time I'm getting into my office at 8:30 or 9 a.m., when most people are still like warming up their systems and warming up their brain, like, I'm fired up and I'm ready to go, and it puts me in a good mood for the rest of the day. So morning routine is probably the most important ingredient for me.
Thank you so much. If you guys could please keep your energy up so you can keep their energy up. Please, when they share something that you love, please applaud. Okay. Same question, what actions do you take to support a strong mindset?
Yeah, so for me, I do a lot of preparation for the coming day the night before. Another fun fact about me is that I go to bed probably not later than 9 p.m. I'm often in my bed at 8:30, 8:45. Now, of course, I do have 2-year-old twins at home, so that keeps my life pretty full. And I put them in bed at 7:30. I eat some dinner, and then I start to watch TV, but I fall asleep all the time. So I go to bed. When I go to bed, I every night take a pack of vitamins. And I swear by these vitamins. I take a pack of vitamins in the morning, I take a pack of vitamins in the evening. It gives me a really good, solid night of sleep. I think having a really good, solid night of sleep, and by the way, before that, I review all of my emails from the day, because I get so many emails and I'm often afraid that I'm going to miss things. But I review everything to sort of let go of the day that I'm in, and then I look at my calendar as I'm preparing for bed and taking my vitamins, and I look at the coming day. I get a very good night of sleep. I wake up at 5:40 in the morning because I work out at the gym and I have to be home by 7 to wake my kids up to feed them. I spend an hour every morning with my children. I, again, prepare myself for the day. I do breathing exercises. I do meditation twice daily, transcendental meditation, and I just sort of try to keep calm. That's my sort of preparation.
Are the vitamins called high kick vitamins?
They're not called high-kick vitamins, but they're a company called, and I don't receive any benefits from them other than the vitamins that I take every day. It's a company called Raw Elements, and I get them from GNC, and I swear by them. I've taken every kind of supplement and all the kinds of vitamins, and I just don't know what it is. I freak out sometimes because I go to the GNC. They're quite popular, by the way. If you do want to visit any of those stores, you may not find them at the first 3 that you go to, but just keep looking because they're worth it, but they're really that good. It's Raw Elements.
Thank you so much. Miss Julia, what actions do you take to support a strong mindset?
I would submit that the very best thing that anyone in this room can do, if you're not doing it already, is to get a coach. They're super functional and effective at helping you see things outside of the box that we're all in. It's hard to read the label if you're in the bag, someone told me once. And to John's point, one of the things that my coach explained to me many years ago when I literally was hiring people to file my inbox into categories and paying for this service, and he's like, what are you doing that for? And what he does, and doesn't work for my entire team, but it really works well for me, is at the end of each day, he has his entire inbox visible on one screen. And I do that every night, as late as I need to stay up. I make sure that I don't have any more emails than I can see on one screen. And it gives me great calmness because I'm not waking up the next day with a huge plethora of emails to deal with from the day before, when of course they're coming in already for the next day. I'm also a big fan of meditation. I took TM a few years ago. I only do it once a day. I'm one of those. But it really does help. I get up, I do my 5 minutes of weights, I do 2 minutes of plank, I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I start drinking coffee and get right to work before my team even gets in the office.
Thank you so much.
So my husband Kirk will say that I have a team. That would be my therapist, my trainer at the gym. I have a life coach, I have a business coach, I have a nanny, my personal assistant at the office. So I like a lot of collaboration. I also like to be coddled and taken care of. But more, but it's, I think it's important to say with all this, consistency is great. I actually struggle with consistency. So I always say, oh, I know all the tools, but when I'm not doing them, I had someone once say to me, it's very simple, get enough rest, eat well, and exercise. And that pretty much keeps you level. And I find that to be true, but when you're super busy, I go to the gym, I meet my trainer at 5:30 in the morning, but when I'm super busy or not feeling well, I cancel that, and that can get me a little bit off kilter. So I'd say I'm very fortunate to have a lot of support of people that I respect and trust, but then you have to be consistent. Consistency is, I think, it's a...
Thank you. Jessica, which is a bigger issue, a bad market or bad mindset?
Definitely a bad mindset. I actually think bad markets make very good brokers because it requires you to learn a lot more and work a lot harder to make less money. But I will say that in all the ups and downs, and I've had a lot of people working against me while I was in my young 20s, I never let anybody tell me I couldn't do anything. And even in bad markets, if you have the right mindset, you will still thrive.
Obviously, a bad mindset is way worse than a bad market. One of the first markets that I worked was right after the 2008 crash, and I remember just hearing everybody complaining and how the industry was over. And anyway, I made a ton of money the next year, and it was, I don't know if it was because everybody else gave up or because I was in such a desperate situation. I never worked so hard in my life, but you can make money in a bad market, but not with a bad mindset.
Much of the same, I agree. I mean, you can go through anything, really, if you have the right mindset. So a bad market is a bad market. I mean, I hate to say this, but in a way, I do like bad markets because I have traditionally always performed better. I perform much better when I'm sort of like, my back is against the wall and everything is stuck there. I mean, I'm on in those moments. And what I realize is that by me being on those moments, I am just sort of naturally that way. A lot of people are not. And a lot of people are not concerned about their mindset and about taking care of their health. So I feel like that becomes a competitive advantage for me, and I'm very competitive. So yeah, for me it's all about having a positive mindset.
Thank you so much.
I agree with everything that everyone has said so far. My dad, when I was young, which I'm sure some of yours did too, said you can do anything you put your mind to. And I really believe that, and I think it's helped carry me through most of my life in different things. Bad markets are really, really good for developing strong muscles because it's not easy to sell real estate in bad markets, and you have to be more creative and more persistent, and it takes longer, and you have to juggle more things because you have more things coming on. And so it's a huge advantage, and a lot of our competition sometimes will leave the market in bad markets, and so it also helps us create a greater client base. So embrace it.
So similar, you can make money in a good market or a quote bad market. I like what you said, John, about that it's it's like adversity makes you stronger. And when it gets too easy, I know I get a little lazy and take things for granted. I feel like I'm really on my game now. And the other thing I'd just say is that someone the other day, we pride ourselves, I'm sure as we all do here, on pricing right. And we're all at a point where we can lose a listing potentially, but we want to be real with this is where the market is. I go into pitches all the time talking about that. But I was reminded, sometimes I was like, oh, I'm going with the real information, they just have to suck it up. There's a way to deliver information with not just doom and gloom, which I'm not, but like anything or dating, or if a doctor's telling you you're sick, they tell you the good news first. It's not so bad, but here's what you have. So similarly, when I'm with sellers, and again, I was just reminded of this in pitching something, I tell them a lot of good, and then I give them the reality of where the market is. So it's just a little tweak, but it really makes a difference.
Jessica, what has been the most pivotal or defining moment in your real estate career, and why?
That's kind of a two-part answer. So I think one of the defining moments in my career was joining the Eklund Gomes team, and one of the reasons behind that is I used to have a partner about 3 years ago, and we ran a top team called the Peters O'Brien team in Brooklyn. And when we were at the top of our game, my ex-business partner decided she wanted to pursue a personal passion, which basically left me with my entire team in this crazy business all by myself when I did not ever operate on my own. So at that point in my life, I had to decide, did I want to go at this on my own, or did I want to find another partner? And instead of going out and looking for another partner, I ended up finding partnership in a friendship that has evolved into this incredible Brooklyn division. And I've already done a third of our business in the last 10 months that I have in my entire career.
That's why I call her the Beyonce of Brooklyn real estate.
Oh, and don't let me forget about Vivace, because this woman over here has changed my life. I've been working with her for about 6 years, and I went from this quiet little shy person to who I am today, so thank you.
The Beyonce of Brooklyn real estate. Mr. Tyler Whitman, what has been the most pivotal moment or defining moment in your real estate career, and why?
Well, I know it doesn't really sound like it's part of my real estate career, but it truly was. In 2016, I lost 200 pounds, and up until then, so from like basically 2006.
200 pounds,
Oh, hi! I didn't know that was your mom. You made this?
She's like crying over there.
I love that. But I got into the business in 2006, and honestly, for the first 10 years of my career, I blamed every single failure and shortcoming I had in my business on my weight. If I didn't get a listing, I thought, oh, they probably don't trust me because I'm obese, or this person's making simple judgments off of me because of X, Y, and Z. When I no longer had that excuse, I really had to examine just my own skills and really get, because I still don't get every listing I go for. And so then, instead of just being like, oh, because they didn't like me for who I am, I had to be like, okay, I need to step up my game. I need to actually start doing better. And it was the first time that instead of looking at the weight that kind of been like a crutch to not grow in my business, it was the first time that I really had to analyze my own skills and get better at what I've done. And and everything's really good now. So.
Mr. Tyler Whitman. Mr. Gomes, what has been the most pivotal moment or defining moment in your real estate career, and why?
Gosh, this is a hard one for me. I mean, there have been many, I will say, and I'm grateful for that. But I look back historically, and I think one of the most pivotal, and it was early in my career, was I was working alone for the first few years. I was in the business 2 years. And then I received an invitation to lunch at what used to be the Four Seasons restaurant by who is now my business partner, Eklund. And the reason he invited me to lunch is because I was selling in many of the new developments that he was representing downtown. And I accepted the lunch invitation. It was quite nice. It was very fancy. And he introduced me to Sean Osher, who was working at Core, or who was, founded Core at the time. And it was a wonderful lunch. They were just thanking all the brokers who had done deals, and they essentially invited me to have an interview with Sean Osher, and I did. Sean Osher promised he said, "John Gomes, you've got potential. I'm gonna make you a star." And I thought, oh, you say that to all the guys. Anyway, long story short, I decided to leave the firm that I was at to join Douglas Elliman, and then it just so happened to be that the desk that was available was the desk that was sitting next to Frederick, and we were literally sitting back to back. I didn't have the kind of career that he did at the time. He was very busy. The market was much busier than it is now, and he's not so well organized, really good at what he does, but he's sort of, papers all over the place. And he had a lot of papers, quite frankly, falling to the floor, and I just kept looking at each one that fell as an opportunity to make some commission. I said, look, you invited me here, all that paper is falling off your desk. I'm going to propose that you give me some of those papers, and if I can turn them into dollars, we can work out an arrangement. And the rest was history, quite frankly. So that was an important, pivotal decision that I made, and it just so happened to be, and by the way, I think it was all meant to be, because I think that we were sort of cosmically connected and just meant to be together. We have a very unique and special bond. I just followed my gut and intuition. That was a pivotal moment for me.
Are you guys enjoying these stories?
Yes.
Julie, same thing. What has been the most pivotal moment or defining moment in your real estate career, and why, please?
Related, actually, to what Jessica and John have said, relates to my team. I also started out on my own. And in my first year, I hired my first assistant before I could afford it, because I knew and believed, and the mindset said that there's no way I can grow this with just me. And then 2009 happened, and I reached into my own pocket to pay my team because I wasn't making any money, and the market had stopped. And thank goodness I did that, because 2009 ended up being a phenomenal year, our best year ever back then. And I met my right hand, who is still with me today 10 years later. And I believe that there are people who are visionaries, and I happen to be a visionary. I'm good at the big picture, not so good at the details. And then for every 4 visionaries, there's 1 integrator. If you've ever read the book Traction, it's very good. And the integrators take the vision and make it into reality. And so if you all have teams or want to start a team, try and find your integrator, because Katie DiMattia has been integral to helping us become this 8-person team today, and it's just really critical to have the right people in the right seats in your business, whatever it looks like.
Thank you so much.
I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, I hired a business coach. I hired Tom Ferry, and the trajectory of my business took off after that.
Can you tell us, Jessica, what has been the scariest moment in your business for you, and how have you handled it? Was it what you mentioned with your business partner, or can you give us another example?
It was probably stemming from my business partner, but what I think is really unique about that situation is it was also pivotal. It was pivotal and it was scary. So one of the things that was scary about it is, deciding whether or not you want to take on another business partner, and whether or not this empire that I've built is kind of worthy of just bringing somebody in, and how to quantify that. So I was just lucky enough to have a great mindset and believe in myself, and instead of going out and looking for another partner kind of to catch me when I was falling, we created a Brooklyn division. So it actually forced me to rise to the occasion and become better and stronger than I was.
Thank you. Scariest moment in business for you?
I think I've been pretty lucky. The only time I remember being truly nervous was because I also coached with Tom Ferry, and for the last few years, he's been really, really preaching that you need to get into video marketing, and and I really didn't have that much of an idea. But I'm a quirky person, and I feel like I wanted people to see who I was and how I was different, and that's mainly my personality, in my opinion. And so I filmed this web series called Whitman Wisdom, and I remember the first time I put it live, I was very nervous because I knew it was different. And then when I put it out there, I got a lot of love from like my personal network. I also got a lot of really negative feedback from people in the industry who thought I was making fun of the industry and had pretty negative opinions of it. And so I remember just being like, oh God, I was like, am I making a huge mistake, and got so in my head. But ultimately, I think like what I ended up learning from that is, I'm really only interested in the feedback of my fellow brokers if it's coming from a place of helping me grow and helping me get better. But I stuck with it, and ultimately that's how I got $1 Million Listing. And so, it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm just going to be my true authentic self and hope that takes me to the top. And in the end it worked, but for a while there I was like, what the hell was I thinking?
How many of you have watched his Whitman Wisdom? Please put your hands up. Y'all need to get to watch his Whitman Wisdom.
It's really,
It's amazing.
really raunchy.
Which is why I think it's amazing.
I love it because we watch it all the time.
Right.
But
You can't not watch
it
it.
is so not what I would ever do. It's so not my brand, but Tyler, don't do that shit. It's brilliant and it's so entertaining. It's really good, and you learn a lot.
Thank you so much. The scariest moment for you.
Yeah, I actually had a really scary moment in my business, and I really love the opportunity to share this to a larger group because I think it's a very important message that I want to share. I had a scary moment a few years ago. There was a showing that was requested for a building. It was 88 Greenwich. I'll never forget it. It was a little bit of a weird setup for the showing. And I was like curious to meet the individual because he was asking all sorts of odd questions. He came late to the showing. He insisted that he do a showing at nighttime, although he was so focused on the sun and the light and the southern exposure. So I thought it was odd that he wanted to come at night. When he came at night, he came late. It was like 20 minutes late. He finally arrived, and he was sort of like jumped into the building out of a cab. And he had this very large bag, like a hockey bag that you would put hockey sticks into. And I remember the bag, I remember him being out of breath, I remember the flip-flops that were on the outside of the bag. And right away, I was like, I got this strong sense of worry, and I had a very, very strong intuition that just something came over me, just like alarm saying, caution, caution, caution. I was a little bit scared. I was, earlier on in the business, so I felt a little intimidated. I didn't want to go upstairs or in the elevator with him, but I did. Mistake number one. When I went up in the elevator with him, my intuition and my alarm bells started going off even louder. So I had a crisis, and I thought, I have to make a decision fast. It's like between life and death, I seriously thought at the time. So we go upstairs, and I went to go into the apartment, and I already planned this in my mind in the elevator, but I made pretend that I actually forgot the keys. And I held the elevator, and I said, oh God, this is so crazy, I'm so sorry. Just give me a moment. And I jumped back into the elevator. He got very upset. He got in the elevator with me, and I pressed the lobby level, go downstairs to the lobby level, and said the doorman didn't have extra keys. Long story short, he didn't get into the apartment. Actually, before that, then he said, well, let me see some of the amenities. He was going into the amenities, and we went into the gym, and there was a camera, like here where this projector is, and he could see the camera, and he went like this to the camera. So I was like, okay, this is really crazy. So I come back to the elevator. He was really, really angry they didn't get in. It was Halloween, actually. I went and met my then husband for dinner. The next day, I'm sitting there, as I do every morning, watching the news. Actually, the day after was the day after that. This young gentleman murdered a Mexican young gentleman in Long Island. And I immediately called the police, and I told them what had happened so that they were aware, and they did an interview with me. The long story short is my intuition told me that if I was going into the apartment with that guy, he was gonna kill me and cut me up and put my body in that bag. I really strongly felt that intuition. So I know it's like a weird, grotesque sort of story, but I like to share it because it's really, really important, that you are all in the right mindset, and you must. Part of mindset is having a strong intuition. You've got to trust your intuition, people. We're often alone with strangers. Be careful, be cautious, and have the right mindset, and always, always trust your intuition. Never be afraid to ask someone for help. Never be afraid to have a buddy. Try not to do showings at night. These things happen. You've heard it on the news. Just exercise caution and always take care of yourself first.
We're so happy that you did to use your intuition, and thank you for sharing that story. How many of you, right?
That was a scariest thing that ever happened to me in real estate.
How many of you have had very strong intuition, but sometimes you're afraid to use it? Put your hands all the way up. And then on the panel, how many of you believe you can credit your success to your intuition?
100%.
That's inbuilt wisdom that I believe everyone has been blessed with, and sometimes the noise outside silences our own inner wisdom. So I'm really excited that part of the Mindset series you shared that. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay.
The scariest moment for you, Julia.
Beat that.
I said I was competitive.
So my answer for this question was the 2009 and not having money to pay my team or myself. We were also in the middle of a gigantic renovation of an apartment that we had bought shortly there before that. And we were living there, and the construction had to stop, and it was super stressful. But what I'll say, kind of dovetailing on what you said, is I think fear. I feel fear every. I wouldn't say necessarily every day, but say every other day. Something scares me. I mean, I have a team. I'm the main rainmaker. There are a lot of mouths to feed. I'm very happy to do that, and my team is amazing, and they deserve everything. But that scares me a little bit, like having these price discussion, price adjustment discussions scare me. I believe that we can grow from fear. They say you should do one thing every day that scares you. I think I haven't watched your podcast or video or yeah, I'm excited.
I'm surprised you would be a huge fan.
I'm sure I will be. I'm sure I will be. But I think Bree Brown, I don't know if any of you are familiar with her, but she did a TED Talk on being vulnerable. She's done several, and it's about being vulnerable is actually what helps you connect with the world. And that was, I have to imagine, quite vulnerable for you to do that, and look where it's led. So I'm a huge fan of being scared. Like, pursue it, because it'll help us grow.
Thank you so much. Brene Brown, just before you start, Steve, thank you. Brene Brown also talks about being shame resilient. And I think that's a powerful thing. A lot of times we're vulnerable and we feel so much shame about expressing our authenticity because it's different. I think your uniqueness is definitely your asset. If you want to multiply your business, stand in the truth of who you are, and maybe practice shame resilience. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so I'm super competitive, but I actually do have something. Vivace knows, but I won't share it. Anyway, I love what you said, and a mentor of mine years ago said to me that your strength is in your vulnerability, and so I use that. Fear, there's fear every day. Every January rolls around, I'm talking to my mom, and she's like, yeah, every January you think you're never going to make any money again, right? So it's just like, but as I get older and I've done this longer and longer and have my track record, I know I'll be okay. But similarly, I want to perform for myself, my family, for my team. But in the moment, that vulnerability piece is, I have a mantra that I say, I'm a powerful, loving, genuine, risk-taking man, and the risk-taking is the thing I really struggle with. I mean, I take risks, but that's the one that, wow, I have to remind myself. So sometimes it's saying something, or in a meeting, or whatever it is, saying, trusting my gut and saying, I know this, I feel it, just say it. I don't like confrontation, and I'm a people pleaser, so for me, that's hard. But That's why they're hiring me, and that's my job. I have lots of friends. I can be their friend. I can be their friend and also be a trusted advisor too.
Thank you so much. Now that we've discussed your scariest moment in business, Jessica, what is the boldest thing you've ever done in your real estate career?
I mean, I kind of touched on this before, and all these questions are kind of very deeply connected for me, but it again stems back to when my business partner retired and joining this team. It was incredibly scary because it meant a lot of different things. And I was afraid in joining the team that I wasn't going to have the same voice that I did before, but it's incredible the amount of support that we have and how we just pump each other up, and it's probably the best decision I've ever made in my career.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I met Phil Lang and David Walker, who are the co-founders of Triplemint, the company where I work. I was actually their real estate agent when they moved to the city, and I knew that they were like well connected and like gone to Yale, and they were like, we're thinking about doing a real estate startup. Would you meet with us? So I started meeting with them, and I was getting tons of referrals, so I kept kind of milking that relationship. And then one day they were like, do you want to leave and start this company? And it was 2013, it was October 1st of 2013 that I said yes. And I remember I was not scared at all. I remember I was just like, something tells me in my gut we're going to do something really, really special together. And October of 2013, there were 5 of us, and now there's 250 of us, and like we've grown it really all natural. We did not have hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. We had to like bootstrap it, and we've had to make some difficult decisions, and it's the thing I'm most proud of, for sure.
Boldest thing that you've ever done in your real estate career?
I think the boldest thing I've ever done in my real estate career sort of relates to the story I was talking about earlier about how I met my business partner. At the end of my second year in the business, I had done this really amazing and big deal. It was the largest deal I did at the time. But I brought a buyer who I met at an open house, and it was a $4 million open house. He ended up buying 2 apartments at the Visionaire, which at the time was a brand new development. They were each $6 million, and it was a 4% commission at the time, so it was, you do the math. It was a good day for me. It was a $500,000 commission. It was that same day that I did the $500,000 commission that I actually gave my notice to the company that I was working with at the time. And it was a bold move for me because I knew that when I gave my notice, I was actually giving away 50% of my $500,000 commission, and I have never in the history of my life ever even imagined that I could earn that type of money. But the reality was that the Visionaire was not even broken ground. So I would have to wait 2 to 2.5 years to collect that big $500,000 commission. And I had to make this choice because I was presented with this opportunity, and I felt very, very strongly. Again, my intuition told me I needed to leave the firm I was at and go to this new firm because it was, core. By the way, that was a risk because it was a new firm, but it felt right because they were focusing on new development. It was what I was attracted to. My office was uptown. I was selling everything downtown. The people that I had met were all really cool, and I felt very comfortable around them. So it was a bold move to push $250,000 to the other side of the table and tell my manager at the time that I was giving my notice. I gave my notice, by the way. A funny part of the story is that I gave my notice thinking, I'm going to give my notice now. I'm giving you 2 weeks. I leave the office that day, and I go home, and the telephone rings, and it's my manager, and he says, what is your address? And I said, oh, and I gave him my address, and he said, well, because we're sending everything from your desk in a box to your home. And I was crushed, and I was immediately scared. And ironically, and this kind of ties into Jessica here, the Beyonce story, the song that came on the radio was, you must not know about me, you must not know about you in a minute. So I thought like, okay, that's fine, you send that box, because then the next line goes, everything you own in the box to the left. So they sent my box back, but anyway, everything worked out okay because that firm that I left at the time is the same firm that I work at today, which is the firm that I will retire at. That's Douglas Elliman. So it all worked out, but just
Julia, the boldest decision that you've ever made the boldest thing that you've done, in your real estate career.
The boldest decision would be that I'm not going to sit up here and sing. But I met a client at an open house many years ago who ended up buying a $4 million condominium from me, and then a couple years later he got transferred to Hong Kong. He was in finance. I was in finance for years before I got into this business. And he's like, you're in finance, you have connections here, you should come over. And I had this 4-bedroom flat. You can stay in the West Wing. We won't even see each other. And you can talk to people about Manhattan real estate. And I said yes, not having any clue what I was going to do anything on that trip except for buy my plane ticket, and I had a place to stay. And I made calls to every brokerage community every brokerage company I could find. And over in Hong Kong, the commercial brokers have residential divisions, which they don't here. So any of them can refer to me here without, not referring them to their own company. I went to NYU for grad school. I got a list of the alumni that were in Hong Kong from the office, and I reached out to all of them. And I reached out to my connections in finance, and that was in 2010. Next January will be my 10th year. I'm now giving a presentation at the Mandarin Oriental. It keeps me sharp on the market because I'm presenting on it. It keeps me connected with my clients, and it gives me the ability to market that I have an international connection, which I do, and it's fun. I love traveling. So it was really bold because I had no idea what it was going to turn out to be, but it really turned into something that's a regular part of my business strategy today.
Thank you so much.
It was a long time ago, and it's small, but I always think about it, and it reminds me every day. So I had a dear friend who was a very successful developer, and this was early in my career, and I would sell all his personal things for him, his homes, but not his developments. And one day I just called him and said, why aren't you giving us the business? I asked for the business, which for me was a big risk. He dealt with much bigger brokers at the time than I was. And I remember he said to me, if I were you, I would have made the same call and asked the exact same question. And we just actually closed out on one of his buildings, but that was many years later. But I remember thinking, I did the right thing. I asked for the business. I have to do this all the time. I have to take that risk. I was so afraid of, am I overstepping and who am I to ask for that? But I did it.
Question for the audience members. Please raise your hands. How many of you are visual learners? Lots of you. Great. So we're going to play a little bit of the newlywed game. Panelists, you each have a little piece of cardboard paper, poster paper under your chairs with a beautiful brand new marker. Sharpie, yes. Yes. The question is, if you have to express the quality that you attribute your success to in one word, what word would that be?
Do we need to save room for other things to write?
No, that's it.
Write it
Big,
All
big,
right.
bold. Jessica, let's start with you. What is the one word that you attribute your success to?
Brave. I think for me, being brave was incredibly important to my success. I was gonna write resilient, but I felt that brave was a much stronger word because I started in 2007, 2008 as the market was declining. And after working as an assistant for a top producing broker, I was actually fired for something that wasn't my fault. And as a result of that, I went across the river to Brooklyn, which nobody thought was cool at that time. Williamsburg had no waterfront, and I think maybe the highest price point was at $600 a foot, when in Manhattan things were well into the thousands. So I'm appreciative that I was brave enough to try something new and become a big fish in a now big pond.
Thank you so much. Please show everyone the word. Tyler, one word to attribute your success to.
I said fearlessness, which I guess is same thing as brave, but just a different way of saying it. Yeah, I think for a long time I thought I needed to change a lot of my quirks so I could fit in the New York City market and with the New York City brokers, and that was a big fear of mine. And then I didn't do that, and that's actually been I think what's made me stand out in the crowd and added a lot of success to my career.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so in one word for me, it's positivity. From a very young age in life, I've been overcoming adversity. I feel like I've always been the underdog in many ways. Actually, I still do feel like I'm the underdog, to be honest with you.
What?
Truly, it's the truth, honestly. I do feel that way.
Positivity.
So I think positivity to me, because I can always seem to find the silver lining in everything. And I'm always looking, and I'm always trying to be positive. I'm always trying to have a positive outlook. I'm always trying to have positive energy, because it goes back to what we said at the beginning of the panel today, is that our energy is a reflection of who we are. And we're working with clients who are coming from all sorts of places and all sorts of situations, and they want to be around a positive person, and we want them to be around us because we want to sell them so we can make that commission. So being positive to me is just that's the most important, for sure, positivity.
Thank you so much. Julia, in one word.
I wrote abundance. I'm a huge believer that we do not live in a zero-sum world. I think there's always more to go around if you have the attitude that there's more to go around. I love being open and sharing, because I have my secrets, whatever you want to say, whatever makes me successful can help some of you, and some of you might not, but it's not going to make you not help me, because you're not me and I'm not you, and so we all have our different ways of doing things and our different things that work. And so I love sharing. I love, part of my job on my team is to make connections and bring in business development, networking. And for me, it's very satisfying to figure out what people I'm talking with need and who do they need to connect with and how can I help them. Because that takes the pressure of me off of feeling like, an ugly salesperson, which I'm shocked I'm in sales, honestly, because I hated salespeople for most of my life. But to be for me to be genuine in my sales career, it helps to take the focus off of me and onto the person I'm talking to, and then it helps them, and then people remember who helped them, and so that has just led to more business for us as well. So, abundance.
Thank you so much.
Mine's determination, and I think it goes back to just that focus, knowing what I want, setting a goal, and going after it, being determined.
Thank you. Can the panelists all hold up your words? This is a photo op for you all. My mom's in the game. My mom's in the game. How many of you like this show and tell part? Yes? I'm asking for the next panel, so I want honest feedback. Thank you. Next question. How do you keep, Jessica, how do you keep your mind strong and resilient despite repeated disappointments? How do you shut out all the negative noise around you?
Well, I think first off, it's being mentally and physically healthy. I take my health very seriously. Every morning, I take these pills called Super Me, which
There's a lot of pills on there.
Now you know. I'm also very into yoga and Pilates and any sort of fun exercise class. It's not just exercising my body, it's exercising my brain. I'm very into matcha, and I do believe that it helps with my clarity, because they do say it helps promote alpha waves. But in addition to that, I like to surround myself, like I was saying before, with people who are just as equally talented or more talented. And I think having a mentor really helps you through those tough times. In addition to that, coaching has been a savior for me because Vivace can tell you I used to beat myself up a lot until she kind of bitch smacked me and was like, what are you doing? You're a queen. But it seriously does. Having somebody that you can confide in, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a friend, somebody to bounce ideas off of, it's just wonderful to have that person that can always make you feel like the best version of yourself. And I also have somebody, my best friend and Lieutenant is sitting in the audience, and she's kind of my right hand and always makes me feel like I could conquer the world.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
I don't take any morning pills. I feel like maybe that's a thing I need to add to my list. But I do. I was talking about my morning routine earlier. If I was going to talk about like the thing that I think helps me most, I do think it's a culmination of the physical health and the food health and all of that. But for me, the gratitude list has been the biggest game changer. And I just take 2 minutes every morning to write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. There's a lot of repeat things on the list. There's a lot of new things on the list every day. But what it's done is it's really trained my brain to just constantly remember how awesome my life is. And when bullshit happens, and it's going to happen, right? Like we can't control the outside forces in our life. But when it happens, my first thought is I was like, yeah, my life is still really, really good, and like I just stop and I feel it for a second. And I used to have an assistant when I was new to the gratitude list game, and to hold me accountable, I used to text her my gratitude list every morning. And one day I was just having one of those Murphy Laws days where everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and she just started screenshotting me my gratitude list. And I just sat there and read it, and I mean, I just got like the best mood, and I was like, oh, that's right. I was like, deals are always going to fall apart. Like these are things that are always going to happen, and it's always going to suck. But at the core of my life, like everything is truly amazing. So do your gratitude list, people.
Same question. How do you keep your mindset strong and resilient despite repeated disappointments? And how do you shut out all the negative noise around you?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think I learned a long time ago in this business that the deals are always going to fall apart. And I also learned a long time ago that you're only as good as your last deal. So for me, I just always stay focused. And I always say to myself, look, I don't work in medicine, nobody's going to die. It's just, for me, I just keep on keeping on. And I never get too excited about like making that deal until the 11th hour when it's about to sign. So I don't ever allow myself to be disappointed if it falls apart. I'm just super focused and I just keep on keeping on. And really truly part of what helps me do that is my daily practice of meditation. I just could not do what I do at the level that I do it without meditating. That starting meditation, I think it's like going back 6 years ago, literally changed the course of my professional life. I had reached a point in my professional life where if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, because I reached a point where things just got really, really crazy. And my brain was so fried, and I couldn't really sleep, and I was like constantly turning over deals and negotiating, literally waking up sweating, negotiating in the middle of the night. So that practice of meditation for me is what keeps it all. It allows me to keep on keeping on.
Thank you so much.
For me, it's similar. It's just I'm very stubborn. I'm a Taurus, and I have this dogged determination that if today isn't good or sucks or whatever is happening, that tomorrow is going to be better and the best is yet to come always. And I do think things like meditation, it's different for everyone, working out or eating right or whatever, connecting with family and friends outside of real estate, it helps create a perspective. And keeping things in perspective, especially in our business, is super important because it can get so far out of perspective when you're in the middle of things and in the middle of multiple things, and if they're all going wrong at the same time, you think your life is over, but there's so much more to life than real estate, and so finding things in your life that can help you remember that, I think, are really important.
Thank you so much.
I echo all of that, and I'd say it comes back to that consistency. So whatever you practice, be it meditation, diet, sleeping, eating well.
The pills.
The pills. Definitely finding those pills. But it's the consistency of doing whatever practice you're doing, because that just kind of pushes all the nonsense away. And my 2 kids keep me grounded.
Beautiful, thank you.
This is a question to all
panelists, please raise your hands if you're looking to expand your teams. And if you are, what are the 3 qualities that are most important for that person to have? Any of you looking to expand your teams? Okay, Jessica, can you start? What are the qualities, the 3 qualities that you're looking for? This is Jessica Peters, the Beyonce of Brooklyn real estate. So if you want to look at Brooklyn, please contact Jessica.
For me, I think one of the most important qualities is being able to be a problem solver. I never present a problem without a solution, and I think that that's an incredible quality that you have to be on the team. Resilience, not letting yourself get knocked down if the deal doesn't come to fruition. And just overall having a very good attitude, not being aggressive or I guess entitled, especially these days, is incredibly important, and staying grounded and grateful. And being grateful, I think, is probably one of the most important qualities that I'm looking for in an agent.
Thank you, Jessica.
I thought it was clap-worthy. I learned that I cannot teach work ethic. So that is the most important thing when I'm meeting with agents, is I want somebody who's super hungry. I also like somebody who doesn't have the best safety net, like somebody who's got to go all in to make stuff happen, which I think is the opposite of what they tell you in real estate. You want somebody with like a 6-month safety net? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, do not want you to be comfortable. And then mindset, you have to be on your game with mindset. I always ask people about mindset whenever I'm interviewing them and kind of what their mindset practices are. And then third would just be, you have to be a team player. Like, my team is very, very family-esque. You know, we meet, we do team meetings in the office once or twice a week. We do a lot of culture activities, you know, and it's very loving and very supportive. And you gotta love us. You don't have to be just like us, but you gotta love us to be on the team.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And if any of you want to be on any of these teams, feel free. Is it okay to offer them to DM you? Or yes? Is that okay? Okay, please DM them. You didn't want to? Did you your hands up down when I said, did you want to expand your team?
No, I'm definitely expanding my team, for sure. Okay. We're expanding not only in New York, where we're growing our team, and we're growing our, we were 10 people, really, about a year ago. And today, I think I have a total between 3 different cities. We've expanded to Los Angeles, Miami, and we're growing the team in New York. I think we have a total now of almost 70 people. And in the coming year, we're looking to add about 30 more into those 3 different cities. And I think we'll be comfortable sort of maxing out around 100 total. So I interview a lot of people. And I can tell you that the first thing that I look for when the person walks into the room is a spark. I'm looking for a spark. I want to feel a certain energy. And I can almost, at the very beginning, when someone first walks in and sits down, I can tell if I'm going to hire them or if I'm not going to hire them. And the truth is, you're looking for really good people. We have a great team, and I'm looking to make the team, I'm looking for people who fit into the team, and I want to have the best team in the business. So, number 1, I'm looking for that spark. Number 2, I'm looking for someone who is highly motivated. And you can really tell when you sit down and you talk to someone, sort of like what you were saying, Tyler, you know, someone who's really like hungry. I'm looking for someone who's hungry and motivated. And thirdly, and very importantly, I'm looking for someone who is kind. I like good people, and I can really tell who's a good person and who's not. So I want someone who's motivated, with a spark, and someone who's a kind, gentle, good person, because that really goes a long way.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I'm always open to talking with people, because we're not looking to hire this second, but things change in terms of you know, our needs, our desire for the future, our strategy with where we're going, and all of that. So I'm always open, and I learn things from people that I talk to as well, which is fun. But my top 3 things, and probably top 20 things, are attitude and attitude and attitude. I really think you can teach everything else about our business, but you can't teach someone to have a good attitude. So that's me.
Thank you so much. Steve.
Hungry, team player, and coachable.
need a medical background. I have medical handwriting. So, Jessica said, just to put it all in one place, if you all want to put it in their little boxes, if you want to work for them. So Jessica said, problem solver, resilience, and attitude. Tyler said, work ethic, don't have a safety net, mindset, and be on your game, and be a team player. John Gomes said he's looking for that spark and the energy, and he wants someone who's highly motivated and hungry, and you have to be kind, and he's looking for overall goodness, good person. Julia said attitude, attitude, and attitude. You can teach everything else. And Steve said hungry, team player, and coachable. Thank you all. Jessica, what are 3 things you would recommend to someone who's struggling in this market? Please be very specific.
I think coaching is incredibly important, even if it's something that you may not financially think is beneficial to you. I'd say find a way to make that happen. Coaching for me has taken me, I've probably done 5 or 6 times the amount of business I did in my best year since I started doing coaching, and just continuously figuring out ways to reinvent yourself and stay relevant. I think also, again, coming back to the mental health and physical health, I think it's very important to exercise your mind and your brain. And then I think it's very important to surround yourself with people who inspire you. I'm constantly surrounding myself with people who inspire me, and I take all these little tidbits here and there, and I can just turn them into my own magical words when the time is right. So I think that those 3 things are incredibly important.
Thank you, Jessica. Three things you recommend to someone who's struggling in this market?
Develop a great morning routine, whatever works for you. I mean, you can look it up. So many people have done YouTube videos on powerful morning routines, but that's such a game changer just to stay in that positive mindset. The other thing, I was actually talking to an agent at my company about this who has been struggling a little bit in this market, and all they were talking about were their losses and their failures and all the bad things that had happened to them. And I said, why don't you every single day, I was like, at the end of the day, write down your 3 wins for the day, just 3 things that actually went well, and just start stacking your wins instead of stacking your failures, and it will completely, it's kind of like a gratitude list. You just start focusing in on the good. And then 3 would be just the power of education. I say, if you're struggling, take an hour a day to educate yourself, whether that's with a podcast, with an article, with going out and previewing, maybe with shadowing some of your colleagues, role-playing, whatever it is that works for you, just hone your skills. It'll build your confidence, and you'll feel better when you're out with your clients so you can close the deal.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, so for me, I think the 3 things that I would suggest to someone who's struggling in business is, number 1, and most importantly, wake up and go to work every day. Go to the office. Even if you have no appointments and you have nothing to do, go to the office. There's an energy there. While you're at the office, this goes with what Tyler was saying, educate yourself. Read the newspapers. Get online. Look at what's going on. Knowledge is power. While you're there at the office, just know that if you just keep doing something, eventually something is going to happen. And in the meantime, just always look for that silver lining. There's going to be all kinds of disappointment that comes out of this. There's more things to learn in this process. Look for the silver lining, and that will get you to the next step.
Thank you so much. 3 things you would recommend to someone who's struggling in this market?
Find a mentor. I personally, and I think everyone on the stage would say that because of where we came from, which was a beginning, it's really nice to be able to be in a position where I can offer advice and insight and help and just a shoulder to cry on, or whatever the case may be. And you'll learn things from people who have more experience. Find a coach. I said earlier, like, hire yesterday if you haven't hired yet, because they're invaluable. And I have Google Alerts set up on various things, New York real estate, Hong Kong real estate, because I go, whatever it is you're interested in that's related to the business, set up a Google Alert and commit to reading 1 article a day. It doesn't sound like much, but it's 365 articles a year, and you will learn things and become better at speaking with clients. One more thing, just again, kind of keep, this is it. if you're not passionate about this business, if it's not something that is in your bones and that you're excited about every day, no matter how bad it is, I have 2 careers behind me, decided before this career that I didn't love. I would really recommend to find something else to do. Because, not to be negative at all, to be very positive, this business, as many of us know, will suck the soul right out of you, and if you don't love it, it's just not a healthy place to be. So love it and enjoy it, or find something that you love.
Thank you.
3 things that we're offering.
You recommend to someone who's struggling in this
Definitely
market?
get a coach.
I love this panel.
It's activity breeds activity, so just be out there. Our team did a challenge for 30 days where it's not even that hard. We were making 2 phone calls and writing personal note cards. So each of us were doing this to people that we haven't been in touch with. The point being that activity breeds activity. When you put yourself out there, I know when I do it, when I'm reaching out to old customers or clients, or going and putting myself out there and going to cocktail parties and schmoozing and doing things, it's not necessarily the cards that I wrote to the 60 different people, but all of a sudden energy comes and I'm getting a referral from this one and I get a call from a guy I sold a place to 10 years ago. It's the energy, and activity breeds activity. So that's important. So coach, get out there and make yourself active, and stay positive.
Thank you so much.
I just want to add one point because I think it's an interesting story. In 2009, where we had the last really bad market, and this goes into my belief that you really should just put on your suit and go to work. Frederick and I in 2009 were in a very different place in our careers, obviously. We didn't have really much to do at all, but we did go to the office every day. Because we had nothing to do, we created busy work to do. Because Frederick is Frederick, he came up with this idea that we would film a pilot for a television show. Because the industry was changing, and we knew that there was not much activity going on. So we created this pilot because he firmly believed that when the market turned, somehow, television and real estate were going to become integrated. So we had this pilot, we hired a friend of ours, he followed us to the heliport, we got on a helicopter, we went up, we looked down at New York, said, wow, look at all that opportunity down there, we're going to sell this building, that building, that building. We got out of that helicopter, there was a stretched black limousine that took us to our boardroom in our office. We looked at all these floor plans, we put a team together, we didn't really have much of a team at the time. Long story short, it wasn't long thereafter that the market recovered, and sure enough, when the market recovered, television and real estate merged, because that was the beginning of $1 Million Listing, which now 9 seasons later, I think, Tyler, or is it 8 seasons later? So we created something to do because we knew that there was going to be change. We had nothing else to do, but look what happened.
I always tell my coaching clients to know what their X factor is. What is unique and exceptional about them? Thank you. We have 10 minutes. So, Jessica, why is it important for real estate agents to know their X factor? And what do you think is your X factor? What makes you unique, exceptional, and or different from other brokers?
I think my X factor is I pay a lot of attention to my audience, and I try to let things happen organically. And I think that if you know your audience and you understand where they're coming from, you can better frame the situation and how you're going to help them or how you're going to get that commission. And I feel like too often people feel that they have specific qualities that they just want to blurt out of their mouths, and they think that it applies to every specific situation. So for me, I analyze every situation very differently, and I try to vibe off of who I'm speaking with, who I'm working with, and figure out the best way to approach them so that they can hear me the way I want to be heard.
And for 2, why is it important for real estate brokers to know their X factor?
It's important to know your worth because it goes back to your energy. People can see how you feel about yourself when you first walk into the room. If you first walk into the room and you feel that you're confident, then people are going to be much more responsive to you and drawn to you. If your energy is down, you don't understand your worth, you're not going to come off as confident, and therefore people are not going to trust you with their most valued assets.
I think my X factor is that, I'm a quirky, over the top, I lead with comedy, and that's always what's worked for me. It also made me uncomfortable for a while, and something that Tom Ferry said to me very early on in my coaching with him was that if you're for everybody, you're for nobody. And that always really resonated with me because I was like, I need to stop trying to be such a chameleon, which I think some sales training would tell you to do, but I was like, stop trying to be myself so that I can relate to every single person in the room and actually just be unapologetically and aggressively myself, and so that the people who want to work with people like me will come out of the woodwork, and I will focus on all of those people and just accept that not every single client is going to be a Tyler Whitman client, and that is fine. Like, I much, much, much prefer to spend my day working with people who want to work with people like me. So that's... Because you need to know who you need to know who your audience is, right? Like, you need to know who it is that you're going to connect with, and instead of trying to figure out how do I change my X factor to be able to talk to everybody, it's how do I hone in on my X factor to make sure that the people for me are only working with me.
Yeah, my answer is similar to yours, Tyler. I feel that my X factor is that I'm very different. I move around a lot, and I say a lot of things that I'm not afraid to say that other people think are taboo. I am myself. I am and I work every day really, really, really hard to be truly honest to myself and to be myself. And I always tell all of our team members, be yourself because everyone else is taken already. And I feel that the reason why it's so incredibly important to know your X factor is that your X factor is your biggest competitive advantage. And it's good to be different. It's what makes you unique. And when you're true to yourself, other people will pick up on that and they will want to work with you. When they work with you, you'll be successful. They will refer their friends and their family to you. You'll get more successful. It's super easy. It's actually more easy to be yourself than to try to be someone else because that's really scary. So yeah, it's exhausting. Be yourself. People love you because you're you. People love you because you have a unique perspective that they can't find in the next person.
Thank you so much.
I would echo the sentiments, I think, to what you said, Tyler. It is really important to be yourself. It's much easier, and it's authentic, and your energy and love come through. But it's also really important, I think it's a really good quality to be able to read the person that you're sitting across from and adjust how you approach things based on how they're reacting to things. So yes, being authentic is much easier than trying to be something for everyone, and it's important just because you will connect. If people work with people who they like, and if you're connecting with someone, then that means that one would think that they're liking you, you're liking them, and it's just going to be more fun way to be in the business.
And so what is your X factor, Liz?
My X factor, I sort of alluded to it earlier, is that I believe that I don't believe that anyone in this room or on this stage is truly a competitor unless we're actually competing against to get the same listing. But that's at one moment in time, and once the choice is made, then we then become collaborators. And so it's all about being open, not being close to the best, and not being afraid to share. They're not really secrets to me because I just don't think of them that way. But I'm happy to share everything with everyone because I just feel like it makes the world a better place, and it makes me feel good about myself, and that I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling comfortable in front of people, and then people are liking me, and then I'm getting more business. It's just this very happy cycle.
Thank you so much, and Steve.
I'd say that what turns me on is connecting with people and connecting with them very deeply, and so I'm authentic and people trust me. And that's what works for me. I'd say everyone in this room can name a broker, not to be negative, but we'd all say, oh my God, how could anyone work with them?
and some of them are wildly successful. And that's what makes the world go round. And there are people that want to work with those kind of people. I wouldn't, and there are people that want to work with me or any of us. So you got to be yourself.
I would like to thank the Real Estate Board of New York for giving me the opportunity to get this incredible panel of people together. I'm very, very grateful to each of you, Jessica, Tyler, John, Julia, Stephen, for coming. I'm also really grateful to all of you for being here, because you're the ones who make it special and make these guys wake up and want to come here when it's raining cats and dogs outside. So there is one question in the back. I would like to give you an opportunity, and then out of respect to everyone's schedule, we will have to leave. Yes, sir, what's your question?
Two-part question. The first question is, where do you guys get your articles and readings? What sources are you using every morning? Can you just give us two? And then the second part is, in an industry where it's so fast-paced, and everyone wants to work with people that's on the same level of them, or that's obviously on a higher level, so they can, gather new information or new intel to do a better job. How would a new agent, get in those circles with those individuals?
Okay, so I'll touch on my news sources. I watch Good Morning America every morning, but also something I started recently is CNN. You can sign up for these the daily wrap up or something it's called, and it just gives you the 5 most important things that you should know, and it actually has links to various articles that discuss that. So I get the Wall Street Journal delivered to my home, and I read that religiously every day. And then thirdly is The Real Deal, because that I think is the #1 real estate publication that we should all read.
Thank you. And could one person on the panel please address the question for a new agent? How do they compete? How do they get in the game? What should they do?
Partner with someone. I've had people in my office come to me and say, I have this opportunity for this new listing, I'm brand new, this is a good friend of mine or a good client, but they know I'm brand new. Are you willing to be a partner with me on this, 50-50? I'll do all the work. No, I mean, you'll do all the work. And day-to-day work, I should say, and I'll do all of the advisory work and mentoring. And so you get an education in exchange for that 50%. You get the commission. You get to build your GCI. It's a win-win, and I get to feel good for helping someone who's younger than the business I have done.
Beautiful. Please give our panel a warm round